Hello and welcome to Rule 3's video review. I'm Lizzie and this week I'm reviewing Dragon Quest Heroes, The World Trees Woe and Blight Below, an action RPG from Omega Force and Square Enix. This is the newest crossover in the Dynasty Warrior series.
Once upon a time, in a curious dimension, quite unlike our own, there was a very special world where humans and monsters lived together in peace. In the majestic city of Arba, which stood at the center of that world, the most important festival of the year was just beginning.
So first, let's start with the story. You're given a choice between a male and female character who you get to name. Whichever one you don't pick is instead your best friend. You start in a city called Arba. It's the capital of the kingdom of Arba. And monsters are man's best friend. I mean, they're everywhere. They're hanging out, doing whatever. Like, they're friends. Until a man who is dressed in a black cape casts a spell which turns the monsters evil and they start attacking the city. Now you think that it's just you're not sure if it's just a confined case or if this is across the realm. You eventually find out that it is all throughout the kingdom of Arba. It was not an isolated thing. Now the only exception to the monsters attacking rule is a little heel slime named Helix. He is your character and your best friend's friend. The three of you are inseparable. He has this little like circlet on that makes him aesthetically different from the other slimes. So you go to rescue the king, and you find out that he's doing fine. He's able to fend off all the enemies, and he doesn't need your help. You and your best friend are the captains of his army. And he ends up joining your party to help you free Arba and eventually the entire realm. As you go out and free all the different cities, you recruit different characters that are from the other Dragon Quest games. They have traveled across the realms, and some of them have no idea how they got there, and others crossed on purpose. Eventually, this is fairly early in the game, you run into the man with the black cape, and he tells you that you are the children of light. And this kind of sparks another aspect of the story where instead of just freeing all the towns from the monsters, you're also questioning like the elven elder and the foreman of the dwarves and whoever you come across if they have any additional information on what the children of light are. Now the story overall is weak for a Dragon Quest game. It's not like super in depth. What I told you is really all there is to it. You go around, you save things, you save kingdoms, and you try to find more information on the Children of Light so you can defeat the Man in Black. But for a Warriors game, I thought the story was very well done. It was a lot more in depth than some of the other games that I've played. It's also important to note that this is not a Musou game. The other Warriors games in Japan all have Musou within its title. This one does not. And I don't know if it's because of the changes because they decided to go a little bit more of an RPG route as opposed to a hack and slash adventure game. Or if it's just I couldn't figure out how to fit it into the name of the game thematically.
The castle may not be. Our comrades are under attack. We must act now, lest they suffer for our complacency. Listen carefully. I will circle around to the rear of the castle and assess the situation. You, meanwhile, will approach from the front.
You want to follow some long-winded plan? Thanks, but no thanks. We're royal guards, so let's guard some royals.
So next to the gameplay, and they added a lot of RPG elements. So after every mission, which are broken up, well, each area is made up of multiple missions. Instead of like in the Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors or whatever, you go and you have a bunch of objectives and you kind of do them all in a row, and then eventually you finish the level. This one, you have a single objective. Once you finish that objective, you go back to camp or to your airship, which you gain fairly early in the game. And you can save, you can buy gear, craft accessories, accept side quests, spend mini medals, which you obtain through various methods in the game, to buy gear, crafting recipes, and materials. You can spend your skill points that you earn through leveling up to improve your character, increase their stat points, or give them more abilities, or different, like, make it so like your crits make your attack stronger, stuff like that. You can read your mail, you can change your party, and you can rewatch previous cutscenes. The specific ways to get the mini medals is through doing achievements. Every time you kill 100 of a specific type of enemy, you can go and collect a mini medal. Now, it's 5 per, so once you hit 500, there's no further mini medals earned through defeating, like, if you kill 600 slimes, you're not going to get a 6th one. You're done after 500 enemies or 5 medals. You can get them through side quests, they can come out of chests, or monsters have a small chance to drop them. Everything else in the game is bought through gold, which you earn from killing enemies, doing quests, selling things. It's really easy to grind out gold. Now, with what I said earlier about the objectives being broken up into, like, each mission is one objective, there's only 2 types of objectives. You are either going to be killing all the enemies on the map. This includes also a boss fight, usually at the last mission. You have to kill all the enemies, but it's just a giant enemy. Or you are defending a point, whether it's a branch of the world tree, or some people, a gate. It just depends on where you're at. You'll have to sit there and make sure the monsters don't destroy this item. And the monsters are spawned out of these things called moths. They're kind of like a black void. And they are guarded by a moth keeper. And when you kill the moth keeper, the moth disappears, the enemy stops spawning. I noticed throughout my playthrough, usually once you got down to the last moth, it'll say last wave. The mob will actually disappear after spouting out a bunch of enemies, and you don't have to manually close that one, but you do have to finish mopping up the enemies and make sure everything is dead in order to finish the level. Now, also not too far into the game, you will receive a little tube thing from one of your companions, which lets you hold monster medals. And these monster medals are used mostly for the defend portion objectives. There's 2 types of monster medals. They are either going to be sentries or saviors. Sentries you can drop in a spot, depending on whether they're silver or gold will determine whether they use an ability first or if they just appear. And they will stay in that spot. They'll walk around a little bit, but they won't venture out far, and they'll just kill everything that comes in its path. So these are good for, like, blocking off. It's kind of like a tower defense. You go and you can block off the lanes with various monsters, and to make it so that at least the weaker ones won't be able to get through. And then the savior medals have a one-time use ability. These range from putting all the enemies to sleep, or doing a quick attack to the enemies, or something that benefits you, like restoring a bunch of your mana or some of your health. The other difference with this game is when you go there, you have a party, and it's a party of 4. But your party of 4 travels together. It's not like the other games where you have, like, the other people who are on the map with you and they kind of run off in their own separate directions and do their thing while you're off doing yours. You are a unit. And because of this, it also makes it more necessary to strategically place and use your various monster medals, because you can't just rely on Jessica to go and blow up everybody on one lane while you're taking care of another. You start off with just 6 slots for your monster medals, and different monsters take up different slot sizes. So a lot of the weaker ones will use just a single slot. I've noticed that it's mostly the savior medals take up 2 slots, and then some of the little bit more beefy, bulkier enemies. And then, like, the boss level enemies that eventually just become trash, they will take up 3 slots. Which, with only 6 slots, you can't really hold on to a lot in that case. But through side quests, you can get an increase to your maximum number of slot sizes, making it so that you can, maybe throw out 3 or 4 golems, or have a golem and a haxorus, or whatever. You can just have a lot of the larger enemies out instead. Now for combos. You can still do combos by alternating between square and triangle. Your triangle abilities will consume MP. It's not just a like unlimited pool of magic and abilities. You do have to manage your magic points in this game. Your other option is, depending on your button setup, I think it's either R1 or R2, will pull up a menu, and that little menu will have four slots, one for each button, and each one will have a different ability or spell attached to it. These all take up MP, but you don't have to combo to use your abilities. They are all available at just a simple push of a button. Now, MP is regained through killing monsters. Will give you back 1, I think. Gradually over time, it will come back. You can find little like ether potions inside pots that can be destroyed in the level, or some of the monster medals have one of the abilities there, like I said earlier, can be to regain a bunch of your mana. Now, on top of the abilities and monster medals and spamming square button because you don't have any mana or whatever, you also have a tension gauge that fills as you increase your combo. So if you just like keep hitting something and then it hits you back, you're not going to gain a whole lot of tension. But if you have like, let's say that you have a 100-200 hit combo, your tension bar is going to be very full, if not completely full. And your tension ability, every character has a specific like special ability that it'll trigger that is thematic to that character. The main character is he holds either him or the female, depending on which one you chose, will hold their sword up to the sky. It'll get struck by lightning, and then they throw it forward, and it electrocutes everything in a cone in front of them. But like Jessica, who is a mage, she gathers a bunch of energy and she causes a massive explosion that first sucks the enemies in, then like it explodes and they all go flying everywhere. This will always be strong enough to kill the small enemies. However, it is not necessarily going to kill the larger saber cats or golems or the bigger guys. You might have to weaken them first. But while you're in your tension mode, before you use your special ability, you are allowed to cast all of your spells without mana. It gets rid of the mana cost, and you can just spam them all you want. This is super useful for weakening those larger enemies before you try to annihilate them with your special. Now, moving around the map is kind of slow, especially since some of them can get quite big. But you will eventually learn a spell called Zoom, which lets you kind of jump around the map to specific points as long as you have attuned to the crystal that is in its location. So you kind of run around, you want to get all those, and you can jump around on the larger maps. It doesn't work underground, so when you get to the Dwarven City, there is no zoom, because it requires you to jump very, very far in the air, and there's a ceiling over your head. So it doesn't work too well.
Almost kind, but I have no need of your protection. Nay, let we three stand and fight, side by side. Now to arms, friends, for armor!
Overall, I thought the combat felt smooth, and I really enjoyed it, but the story could have been stronger. But for a Warriors game, I was definitely impressed even with the story. I personally give it a buy. It's fun and has plenty to do. It's at least 30-40 hours long, up to 70 to 80 if you try to do everything, like all the side quests and stuff. But if you're looking for a Warriors game, if you're looking for Hyrule Warriors or the Dynasty Warriors game, this game will most likely disappoint you. It does not play like the typical Warriors games at all. I feel like all they really need to do in order to improve this game would be to maybe give us more than 2 types of objectives during the missions. And yeah, no, that's really it. That kind of got a little bit stale and boring. But they did announce that a sequel is in the works back in April of this year. So I'm looking forward to that. Go ahead and leave comments down below in order to gain entries into our giveaway this month. For a game of your choice, go to our website, make comments there, look at other content. There's other ways to gain entries there. Visit our Patreon. There's even more entries possible through that. Like us on Twitter, Facebook, So subscribe to us here on YouTube. And always remember to trust in the rule of 3.
Choose wisely.